Today on the Hero Nation podcast, we are going to be talking about when to fire, how often to fire, everything about being fired right now on the Hero Nation podcast. Welcome to the Hero Nation podcast, the place for entrepreneurs and business owners just like you, where they come to learn tactics and techniques to live more epic lives. I'm your host, John Rinehart, and across from me sits Wayne Salmons. We are the co-owners of Hero Nation, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that's about firing people.
You're fired. Easier said than done.
All right, so I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
When was the last time that you fired someone?
Ooh, several months ago.
Was it just several months ago?
Yep.
All right, what was it? Give me some dirt.
So I had an amazing person that wasn't a great fit, right? And it was a fit in some elements and not every element, which is tough. I think that's really tough when you have someone that checks a lot of boxes and not all the boxes. And what do you do with that? And I see so many people struggle with this, right? They struggle with when do you fire somebody? How do you fire somebody? Yeah. But they're super nice. Like, what's the stuff you hear when people don't want to fire somebody?
Oh, gosh. They're going through a really hard time right now. So personally, I don't know what I would do without them. Is it just me or is it them?
Is it me or is it them? That's a big one.
That's a huge one. Let's see. What's another couple?
Yeah, there's so many. I like them. They don't bring in a lot of revenue, but everybody loves them. That's a big one.
They're a really good person.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. So for me, I'm going to answer the same question. I just finished firing 4 people in a row. Wham, bam, slam, damn, you're done.
Right. Was it easier than it used to be?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. I think for me, the big aha on firing people was that oftentimes I was needlessly suffering and actually causing them to suffer as well. And if you really care about someone and it's really not going to work out, you're not going to help them by them being in a place where they're not going to succeed.
Yeah, so I think that's the big first thing is, are you suffering once or twice? And what I identified so many times is I was suffering twice, right? I knew that I needed to go through the pain of that 5-minute conversation, that half-an-hour conversation of letting somebody go, and I didn't want to do it. So I let it go on like weeks, months, drag. And internally, I was going through all this suffering as I built up this conversation. And looking back, I would have much rather just suffered once instead of suffered to avoid suffering and then suffer anyway. Just suffer once and get it over with.
Okay, so let me ask you this. When you're talking to someone, do you actually ever say you're fired?
I don't know if I've ever actually said those words.
Because I feel like knowing you and having seen like some of your firings,
yes,
I think your soft skills are at such a level, I don't think the words "you're fired" would ever come out of your mouth.
No, I don't think so.
So I want you to go through and fire me, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fire you. So go ahead and let's have that conversation real fast. Ready?
All right. So what role are you in? Give me kind of a role.
I'm an admin.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, admin. Awesome. Okay.
Cool.
So John, first off, thank you for coming in today. I love being able to sit down with you. Here's what one of the things I think you appreciate about our relationship is that I've always been upfront with you. Correct?
Always. Yeah, I really admire that about you.
Yeah, and this is going to be kind of an uncomfortable conversation probably, and yet I really don't want to have, and yet the reality is I care enough about you to have this conversation. So is it okay if we just kind of dive into that? And I'm going to take like my friend hat off, and I'm going to put my business owner hat on for a minute and just dive into this. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah, you're kind of making me nervous, but okay.
Yeah. Well, good. We're both nervous. So here's what we're seeing. So for the last several months, and I would give some specific things, right? For the last several months, we've seen this, and this not happening. And the short-term impact of that is we're losing trust among the team. We're our clients are having issues. I kind of give an impact of here's the short term. Yet here's the reality. The long-term impact of this is if this kept going on for another several months, because it's already been going on several months, if it keeps going, I think it's going to build up a lot of resentment between you and I. And I think it could potentially build resentment amongst you and the team. And I think it could hold you back. If I allowed you to stay here for another 6 months, I think that might hold you back from somewhere where I really, truly believe you could be a 10.
Okay, so what are you saying?
So what I'm saying is that this isn't going to work out. It's been wonderful the time we've had. We've had some really good stuff, and I think that right here, what you're showing up is like a 5 or a 6. I think that that's because some otherwhere else you could be a 10.
That's great, but I mean, I have a family to feed, and is there like any way I can like, kind of like stay on for a little while till I find someplace else?
Yeah. So here's the reality. What I want to do, because I care a lot about you. It's Friday afternoon. What I'd rather do is we're gonna stop working together today, and yet I'm gonna pay you for another 2 weeks to give you some opportunity to go find a great job. Instead of holding you here for another 2 weeks, I'm just gonna pay you for the next 2 weeks and let you go pursue that opportunity.
Okay, well that seems, fair. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any chance I can get like a recommendation for another job or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what you're going to do, and I trust that you're okay with me just being open and honest. I think there's some things you nailed here, and then there's some things that it wasn't a great fit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like obviously there's some things you can improve on too.
Yeah. I'd love to hear those in an email 6 years from now. No, so and here's where I think you have to be careful. I think that you've got to have some specific examples that have led up to this moment, and I think that as leaders, we're very apt and very quick to throw ourselves under the bus.
Yeah.
And that's why, and we'll get to it in a second. But like talking about like when you're firing an agent, I think is very different. It'll be a very different conversation.
Okay, so you ready for me?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do. I'm a editor for you.
Okay. So Wayne, I've been noticing some interesting patterns for the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you some things. What are the most frustrating moments currently in our business relationship?
When you don't like what I did, or you want me to do it faster?
Okay. So in order to do this job at the level that this company currently has,
Mm-hmm.
I require that you both do it at this level and still be able to hit the speed, because it's not a win for me if I'm losing money, and it's not a win for you if you feel like you're being used.
Yeah, dude,
and
I'm
right
totally
now,
gonna get there. Like I really think that I'm gonna get there.
that's great, and I want to see you get there. However, as of today, with my clients and with our current relationship, this is not working out in a way that is a win for me and a win for you. And I don't do business without it being a win-win. If it's a win on your side, but it's not a win on my side, we're not going to do business together. So here's the reality. As of today, you will no longer be working for Free Dream Studios. As of today, you're out the door. However, I want to help you, and I'm gonna send you some resources to help you up your game, to put it out, to go faster, to get better, and so that if you buckle down and in the next 2-3 months you really pull that level up, I think you could really be fantastic. But today, which is where I have to judge from, right? This is not going to be working out at all. So as of today, you're terminated.
Dude, I love that. I think, and I love the clarity, and I love how you said like today where I'm at. Here's the decision I have to make based on today. I think that's huge. So let me.
It's not quite as it's not as nice as his.
No, yeah.
His is a lot more flowery.
So here's where I think that I want to go, if it's okay with you. A lot of our leaders, and I just want to talk mostly to like leaders of like real estate teams and things like that. They don't have, it's very tough for them to hire, especially people like buyer's agents and listing agents. Maybe they're on commission. It's a tough. So can I go through a couple things I think are huge here? And I want you to speak into this. So first off, it's been amazing. I didn't know when to fire people. So in other words, had you come to me 6 years ago, when I was selling real estate and said, okay, what are the qualifications for someone to get fired? I would have had a very hard time answering. I would have been like, hey, when the pain gets bad enough, like when it's just like I don't have a way. So I think the biggest thing they're missing is how do you have a like when do you fire, and can you actually tell someone when you fire them? And I think that's what I ended up having to do was actually write out here's what triggers probation, and then here's what triggers firing. And I would actually tell them that at the beginning in the hiring, because what I see happen over and over, what I did was It would almost for the person on your team, it would seem to come out of the blue. Right. Because I hadn't led well leading up to that moment. Right. And that's what made it really awkward for them and me. I was setting myself up for failure.
Well, and I also think that sometimes what kind of leads to that is sometimes we're kind of scared, right? When like sometimes I don't know how many times I have seen. I remember the first time I honestly I think I dodged for probably close to a month, like actually firing someone because I was like I didn't want to go through this process of looking someone in the eyes, telling them they weren't good enough, and moving on. Here's the reality. I fire fast now. Because if there's a pattern that I don't like in the front, now there's a difference, I think, in between skill and character. And I think I fire more off of character than I do off of skill. Because if their character is there, I can work with really fantastic character because fantastic character will beat out skill any day of the week. However, if someone is super skilled, but their character sucks, I know it's actually going to cost me more to keep them on, as skilled as they are, because they're going to ruin team dynamics. They're going to ruin relationships with clients. It's a deal of like results now or results over a lifetime inside of a business and and reputation, right? So I actually fire probably 90% off of character, and a lot of the flaws that I find in skill often actually are points back to character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think that instead of character, I would use the word values. Like here are our values in alignment, because I think you can have a great person that just has different values. Doesn't make them a good person or a bad person. Their values just don't line up with your values. So here's the problem: can you actually articulate your values? And most teams they just go, oh, we're not a good fit. Like it just doesn't feel like. But are you able to articulate some of that? And I push the people that I work with to write down what their values are, to get clear on that, and be able to do it. So let me ask you this question. Can you ask enough questions leading up to hiring to actually know somebody?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not, there's no way.
Yeah, you're not going to know who they really are until they're in the job for 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Like you can try, and I know there's all the different
and do all that, like that's good stuff.
Do all the personality stuff if you want to. Go ahead, do it. Lead with your gut if that's what you do, but understand there's a reason why trial periods exist. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not have a trial period for your employees, you are in trouble. Right? And if you don't, here's the other thing. If you do not have evaluation periods, if you do not have personal development meetings, PDMs, right? If you do not have PDMs set up every week, personal ones, not just group, personal development meetings for each one of your people every week, at regularly scheduled times where you are there, and regularly scheduled times. If you don't have those every month, if you don't have those every quarter, if you don't have all that stuff laid out, you're going to be disappointed. You can be disappointed by the best employee ever who honestly didn't get, if you're not feeding into them that development cycle, you can be let down by literally one of the best people in the world. And that all comes out with like laying in the groundwork at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and what makes me think about when you're saying that is, are your team members surprised when you let them go?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they're surprised, it probably means you dropped the ball. It doesn't mean they shouldn't be fired, but it probably means you dropped the ball in those weekly appointments. It probably means you weren't having real, authentic leadership style conversations with them over the past several weeks or months, whatever it is. If they're genuinely surprised, either they're way out to lunch and they're not paying attention, or you haven't been having those conversations. Because I think too often we let that stuff undercurrent. We don't have the real conversation, and then we wait till it gets bad enough, and then we just fire the person.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree.
So 2 or 3 pointers or things you need to do to get better at the firing process. What would your advice be on this?
Be direct. Don't dance around stuff. Don't say things that you don't mean. Right. If you don't mean it, don't say it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat things. I'm not saying be an asshole. I'm saying don't sugarcoat it. Number two, I say this, if you're not looking at every person on your team at least I would say once a quarter for me personally. Some people would say once, every 6 months. But if you're not looking at every person on the team and saying, is there someone better that could fill this position? Who do I need to fire? Or is there a better place for them to be moved to? If you're not having that conversation at least once a quarter, in my opinion, there's something wrong. Because that tells me your business is on auto drive. Yeah. So those are my two things. What are yours?
I think my two things are, and I'm still working on this. I think you practice and develop the ability to have tough conversations. You've got to learn that there's pathways. You've got to develop the ability and figure out how to have great tough conversations. They don't have to be brutal, but they can be tough, to the point, awesome conversations. And I think the second thing is, when you bring someone in, are you able to articulate what would cause them to get fired? Yeah. When you bring someone in, right, you go, hey, here's what's going to make this awesome. Here's what would cause you to go on probation. Here's what would cause you to get fired. Is it clean and clear and does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Yep. And I think to your point, it's a journey. Like if you haven't been through 3 or 4 bad hires, you're just starting, right? Like it's a process. It's a skill you got to go out and craft over time. You're not going to nail it day one. Don't tell yourself you're a bad leader because you didn't nail your first couple of fires and hirings. It's just part of the process.
Everybody gets fooled by people.
Yes.
There is no one out there that is such an amazing people person, people reader, that they don't get fooled.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple times.
Yeah.
So, awesome. I think this has been really helpful. I mean, I've learned something.
I think it is.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah, a lot. I need to be more direct.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Hero Nation podcast. As always, the Hero Nation podcast is brought to you by Hero Nation Fuel. If you are not a part of Hero Nation Fuel, you need to get in today. Guys, if you want to be able to have these kind of conversations with people that are as experienced as us, some people that are have a lot more experience than us, and be able to pick their brains, get in there, have people that are on your side, rooting for your business, that's the place to be. If that's the place for you to be, go ahead. I want you to go to theheronation.com. Go ahead, look up, find Fuel, join it. There is a 30-day back guarantee. It is a fantastic program. You get to have weekly calls with Wayne. You get pod calls where you get to be in part of a groups and have an amazing one of our pod leaders. Plus, you can also get one-on-one coaching from one of the Hero Nation coaches. Like, you can have a personal deal with me, or you can have a personal conversation with Wayne or Kelly. Guys, there's stuff available for you to have an amazing life and be your own hero.
Boom.
See you next time.
See you next time.